Hello, my beautiful light beings. Welcome back to the Magic Exists podcast with Dani Margeaux. I have Jenny here today. She is a psychic teacher, master channeler, and spiritual business mentor, and I'm so excited to have her here. Welcome, Jenny.
Thank you so much for having me, Danny.
Yes, so I want to hear a little bit about your story, growing up psychic, and how now you are teaching, and supporting starseeds on their mission here and teaching them about soul tech. So a little bit about you.
Oh, thank you. Yes. So definitely I felt as a child very open in my gifts. And unfortunately, I chose, and a lot of starseeds do, chose a really difficult childhood where I was being raised in beyond religious, like more like a fanatical cult style upbringing. And so, in that kind of an environment, anything that would be perceived as like a gift to me now was perceived as evil or dark or unnatural. And that makes it like you're afraid of your own gifts. It makes it like you're afraid of yourself in a way. And so, though I had so many, miraculous moments, I had an angelic visitation sighting that I described, in perfect detail to my mother and still remember like so crisply today. It was not when I was asleep, it was like awake and fully had a being come into the space and be this angel. Abductions, growing up also in a haunted house, another thing that I think is very common with starseeds. Like it's a very big initiation into speaking to spirit. So, but it was pretty scary as a kid. So a lot of that, the religious stuff and the haunting and the having all of these experiences, seeing, hearing, knowing, feeling my clairs, they were all coming online or they were online. And it was just like too much, right? It was just too much. And so then you get into like your teenage years and you just try to shut it down, shut it down, shut it down. And we can do that in so many ways through substances or just through trying to kind of like go against our nature and be something that we're not and trying to fit in. And it's a really difficult time, obviously. So it wasn't actually until my 20s when I was like refinding myself and starting to like that natural curiosity, that natural inclination coming back where I like left that religion early on in my 20s and then went out and found like got my first set of oracle cards, like something very beginner and just like playing with those and starting to like open up again to spirit and starting to speak to spirit again and starting to talk to my guides out loud. I think that's a big turning point when a lot of communication actually comes through is when you speak out loud. I think that makes a big difference. So talking to them out loud and saying like, I know you're there. Like I want to meet you. I want you to come through and having a dream that very night of one of my guides. She was a Pleiadian named Amy coming up and shaking hands with me and saying like my name is Amy and I've been with you your whole life. And I had all of these like flashbacks in my mind to this little when I was like 2 or 3 years old, and it carried on for a few years, having this imaginary friend, like in quotations, imaginary friend, because a lot of kids' imaginary friends are actually their spirit guides. And she was my imaginary friend, and she told me as a little girl that her name was Star Child, which is like so cute. She came riding in on this white unicorn. Her name was Star Child. And I remember telling my mom about her and asking her to set a place at the table for her and all those things. And so I saw this guide kind of like grow up with me because she would get older and I would get older. And here she was in my 20s now reintroducing herself like this is who I really am. And it was just this light bulb moment of, oh God. And I woke up from that dream and it's like my third eye came back on. I saw above my bed with eyes open these three orbs of light hovering over my bed. And I was like, okay, one of them is Amy, who are the other two? And then it starts. And then you're like, okay, I got to figure out who my team is. I got to figure out who I really am and all of these things. What is my purpose here? I feel like I have this burning desire from within to make a difference. Huge starseed trait that you don't just feel like you're here to have a human experience. That's a part of it, of course, but you're also here on a mission of some kind. And you're just like trying to remember what that is and trying to figure out what that is. So that was like a really big deal and a big inspiration for me. And I started getting this nudge from Spirit after I started communicating with them to start a YouTube channel. And I went a whole year putting it off because I was so afraid to speak my truth and come out of the spiritual closet, the psychic closet, be judged and perceived. It was just so scary. And when I started it in 2019, there wasn't a whole lot of talk yet about starseeds the way there is now. You know, it was very like taboo or weird or just before it was cute. Like it wasn't cute yet to talk about it. So I had all this pushback from trollers and all these people calling me, crazy and all these things. But I just kept going and kept going. And what I ended up building was a community of like-minded people that really like understood that story I was describing about abductions and psychic gifts and talking to my guides and all the things, right? And then I started channeling and bringing through messages for this community. And from there, everything just blew up, right? Everything just went off. And so it's like, it's really important for anyone listening to understand that if you're getting a nudge, it's for a reason. And you don't, it's not just a YouTube channel, or it's not just a podcast, or it's not just a book. It's a doorway to a timeline that's going to open for you. It's so much more than we think when we're getting that soul nudge from within to do something and it's repetitive. If you follow it, it's going to lead you further than you know it's going to lead you.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. And you said a lot of things that I think, just in case our listeners don't know, what would you describe a star seed now? Because I know a lot of people, at least in my field, everyone's like, I want to be a star seed. I want to be someone like from a different planet who's here supporting Earth. But what would you, yeah, describe a star seed as, or someone who hasn't heard that term before?
Yeah, so to me, a starseed is a soul that's had a lifetime off-world. And I think that's everybody. I'm going to be totally honest. I believe that it's everybody because I would even consider like earth angels, the angelic souls that are here in human beings, starseeds, because technically they're off-world, they're in a higher dimension. I don't really separate the galactics from the angelics as much as other people do. I truly believe if it's in a dimension higher than Earth and you've had a lifetime off world in that way that you are a starseed soul and you have memories and you can tap into your Akashic memories of being in these higher lifetimes. It's so common to be a starseed. I've honestly never met someone who wasn't, truly, because I don't believe that there are souls that are only earth souls. And I know that some people believe that, but I've channeled about it and asked about it over and over again, and they tell me it's not possible. They tell me when we separate from source, we do this parallel move across to the angelic realms. So every single person has been an angel at one point. That's one thing that they can say. And then it's actually about slowly descending down, right? From the angelic realms, which can be 12th to 15th dimension, you slowly descend to prepare for Earth. Nobody would go from source straight to Earth and survive it. We actually have to prepare our frequency in a descension to hold like that lower feeling. And so it's not always about ascension. Your soul journey is a circle and it starts up with source and then you descend down through the realms as low as you're willing to go. And however low that is, it's different for every people. Many people never even try Earth. It's quite low. It's very advanced school. And then there are people that go lower than Earth. Like they try 2D, 1D, the underworld, which is zero. I just saw an orb go across your face. That was so pretty. Um, and so it's like how low you're willing to go and in that depth is deep lessons about your shadows because everyone is light and shadow. You're not one or the other, you're both. And the lower the realm, the less light is in you. And so you really can learn more deeply about your shadows. On Earth, our shadow is given a voice called the ego, and it's really difficult to integrate, right? Many people lose themselves to it. But below Earth, you actually become that shadow. It's not just a voice in your mind anymore. You fully embody that like a dark entity in a way. So this really flips on its head what people think dark entities are. I don't believe any soul is fully evil. Yes, there can be evil acts. Of course, acts can be evil, but not souls. And so you can descend down and think about like, what if what's below us is master souls having their moment? And the goal is always to try to wake up and remember who you are, and then they start to rise up again. And so if we're on Earth at this time, because our planet is in an ascension cycle, that means all of us are no longer descending. If you're on Earth and you're awakened at this time, you are on an ascension path. So whether you stopped at Earth and you're rising back up, or whether you came up back to Earth from below Earth, we're all rising together. And rising means rising back up through the dimensions, back to source. So we're going to have lifetimes after this that are a little higher and a little higher and a little, we're gently and gradually going to rise through the dimensions lifetime after lifetime, healing back to wholeness and healing back to what we left behind. And why do we do this soul journey, which is this circle down and then back up again? Because knowledge is one thing, and you can have all the knowledge and never have a lifetime. But wisdom, our souls crave wisdom, and that's the experience, right? So knowledge plus experience is what equals wisdom. You have to have that experience in there, or you'd never feel that wisdom that your soul craves. And that's just what consciousness craves. It craves expansion and wisdom. And that's why we're all doing this. So, long story short, here, a star seed is everyone that's had a lifetime off-world. Now, an awakened starseed might be different. You could say that's a term, awakened starseed. Well, what is that? Well, then I remember. Okay, I remember having galactic lifetimes. I'm starting to have visions or dreams or like meditations where I'm seeing myself as a galactic being and I feel really resonant with the galactics and I'm like, I feel like I'm a part of a council and I have a specific mission here on Earth. That is like an awakened starseed in their mission. That is a power to be reckoned with. But everyone is a starseed.
I love that. And that I really resonate with that because a lot of the people I've been reading, I'm like, oh, I see you're from Lyra or the Blu-rays or Andromeda. And I'm like, oh my goodness, like no one has come to me that hasn't had a past life off-world. And so I love that definition because I hadn't seen it in that way. And I was like, that makes a lot of sense because I do know a lot of people do believe that not everyone is a star seed. And I do think they are as well. And I love that you said about like we are now, if you are awakened, going upward and through the dimensions back to source, ascending back into that. And you talked a little bit about the underworld. And I really love like the underworld, or at least I did when I was going through my healing experiences. And I think a download that I just got was I'm ascending from the underworld, which is so fascinating. But for me, and I would love to hear your explanation on the underworld, is a place where can be perceived as shadow, but is actually a place to transmute into like your power and have support from like all your guides who are there. And so at least that's how I utilize it as a place to go to find those deeper aspects of myself, these deeper places where maybe is like karma and like might not be as light, where I go and help support myself bring in light like you said. And I love that definition of like we're here on earth to bring more light, whether it be into our bodies or into the organic grid of earth, like light, bringing light in. Like our bodies have so much capacity for light, and like the point is to bring more of that in. And how else to do that other than to sitting with the shadow, sitting with the parts of you that you don't like, so that you can really transmute that into something that you love.
Exactly. That's the opposite of bypassing. That's like fully integrating and honoring and accepting your shadows. That's how they become light again. And so I think that your relationship with the underworld, what's coming through is your relationship with the underworld is probably going to be different than a lot of people's because if they haven't experienced it the way that your soul has, they're not going to feel that comfortability with that. And so for you, it's like, oh, it's like a womb, it's like a dark place, it's where I go to be reborn. And for others, it would probably not feel that way. The underworld, truly, if we looked at it logically, is a place where the most forgetting happens. So it's a very scary thing to people to think that as soon as they incarnate there, they can't remember who they are. They can't remember what they're doing there. They can't remember that there's more than there. It's just this loop of trauma. It's just this loop of suffering. And people call it hell because of that. And so truly it is for very, very advanced souls and it should not be taken lightly. And you wouldn't go there unless you were ready. And I don't think that your oversoul and your team would allow a soul contract to be created if they didn't think that you could wake up from there. But there also are legions of archangels whose job it is to go and help the souls in the underworld. And they truly can travel to the underworld and try to create a spark of an awakening for someone. Because all it takes is 1 second of someone to be like, oh my God, that's who I am, or oh my God, I remember. And then they can immediately cross back over, right? They can cross back over into the light, and then you're not trapped there. But who knows how long your soul was there? Who knows how long anybody's soul gets stuck down there in the forgetting. And that's the scary thing.
Yeah, and that's so beautiful and so much to uncover. So you talk a little bit about like the Starseed mission and that we are here to bring experiences and learn more wisdom so that we can evolve and know ourselves more. And so in terms of like being on Earth right now, as the new Earth is transforming, as the Earth is going through a dark night of the soul to ascend in consciousness and knowing and wisdom and experience, what would you say like the light workers' mission is here? And does it differ from everyone, or is it this like over overarching like want to know ourselves more?
I think that we get overwhelmed when we try to change the world from the outside. in, when really we have to change it from the inside out. You are a world. Like your entire body is a world. And if you focus on changing the inner world, the outer world changes even more quickly than trying to focus on the outside. So I think, like we've talked a little bit about the integrating of the shadows, I think that's the first place to start. I always tell people, like, heal your childhood first. That's the very first place to start. Once you actually do that, and some people have more there to do, right? I had to kind of come back around to that multiple times because I had so much trauma. But once I went, I think, back around like the second time and really worked my way through that, did the workbooks and read Heal Your Life by Louise Hay, unbelievable book that helped me so,
Love
so
that book.
much. Oh, so good. And then all of a sudden, my past lives just started opening to be healed. It is a natural progression. Once you truly heal the childhood, your past lives will just start to open one at a time. And usually, what comes through first is what needs healing the most. So, probably grief, trauma, witch wounds, galactic wars. That's what happened with me. And so then I had the childhood done, and I started working on one lifetime after the other, after the other. Your personal healing is more important than any mission. That's should be the mission, right? But beyond that, you'll get when you start to feel like you've really integrated a lot and you've emoted all of this stored emotions, because unexpressed emotions are what create blocks psychically and everything. Once you really emote everything and you get it all out and you feel a bit of a reset, then it's time to like think about, okay, what actions am I here to take? Because I've done a lot of inner work. And that is where I have just found, for every single case, every single client, every single time, that their personal soul gifts and their soul technology, that beautiful like gift that they've carried from lifetime to lifetime to lifetime, it starts to want to come forward. And when you tap into what your particular soul gifts are, that is the mission. Use your gifts in service, in whatever way that looks like. Some people are here as grid workers and they're here to serve Gaia. Some people are here to serve the nature or the environment. And some people are here to serve humanity. And some are here for all, like all of it, right? Some are here for children. It's really dependent on the person. But as soon as you start using your gifts in service, like even me just starting my YouTube channel was that, right? Because even if you just start a podcast, even if you just do that, that's service still, because you're really putting yourself out there and you're really putting the energy into that and you're really trying to help people. That counts. It's not always about just making a bunch of money. It's about the effort and the authenticity and the emotion and your why. Why are you doing it? What is your why? Are you really doing it to help others and to be a rock or a lighthouse for others, right? And I really was. I really, really wanted to be that lighthouse for others. That's when you start to really step into your highest timeline. And then all the good things that you've been desiring happen anyway because you focus on service. So I always say focus on service. So discover what your gifts are, master them, get really good at them so that you can offer them in service, and everything will start rolling in for you, all of the things that you desire. And I take it even further and I help a lot of the women that I work with, a lot of these beautiful spiritual queens, to create their own sacred modality from their soul technology. They create modalities that they can teach, certify people under, like it's so specific and technical and detailed and beautiful, and it's coming from these higher realms, and that's how you build a spiritual empire. Now you're not just, offering services. You can fully build an actual empire just from the same thing, your own soul gifts and soul technology.
That's so beautiful. And I really do think you're a way shower in this field. And like the people that are meant to find you are meant to find you. And it's so interesting because I think I only stumbled upon your page like a couple months ago. And I haven't even been really introduced to your world too much, but I just loved your energy. And so what you talk about is what I see not only in myself, like creating my own technology healing, modality, but also I see that for a lot of my clients too, and how you have come to that place is so supportive for other people like myself to be like, okay, this has been done already, and it's about trusting myself in order to achieve that. And I love when you said like the world is within us, because I think that is such a valuable piece of information to know. Like you have to start within, and you have this cycle of like the inner child work, and then you go into, your gifts start coming online. And for me, I have a similar uh like I followed that process exactly where some inner child came up and then my gifts opened and I entered the Akashic records and I began seeing all these past lives and the trauma, but also the gifts within these past lives. And I was able to relate them to some of the cycles that I was going through. And so I had to go back to childhood or different, ages of my life in order to move through that. And it's so interesting because when I'm in the Akashic records, and I want to ask you about your experience with this as well, I will viscerally sometimes feel like the past life is affecting me here because I am a part of that energy. And so I actually sometimes have to transmute it not just from like the Akashic realm or a spiritual realm, but through the somatic physical realm. And like I'll give you an example. For example, once I was a male and I like actually raped like my secretary. And I remember my body that day was like so traumatized. Like it was feeling the effect of not only the guilt, but like what I had done. And I was super dysregulated. And so I went into the records that morning. That's when I discovered it. And then when I went into the Akashic records that afternoon, I was finally able to like forgive and then ask for forgiveness of that soul as well and helped with the guidance of the Akashic records to heal that past life. And then from there, it's been like this, it's been, I feel free from that. But I'm curious in terms of like some of my, students now are maybe some of them have seen spirit guides come into this reality, and then some don't see it until they access the Akashic records. I'm curious if like you have any guidance on like maybe why some people are receiving, information in different ways and like what guides are there to support them.
Hmm. The first thing that you were talking about that I really wanted to touch on is that you feel like you have to heal not only in the Akashic, but also here in this physical realm. And that's because your soul actually is physically inside of your human character. It's in the physical body. So above the heart chakra, but below the throat chakra, right in the high heart, is where the seat of the soul is. It's actually there. Like it's truly there. It's like people don't realize like that orb of light that is the batteries in the doll is anchored in there. And it has anchor points throughout the body to animate this physical body. But your physical body is like a doll. And without the soul or the batteries, it would be lifeless. It would just start to disintegrate. So you are actually not the human. We are inside the human. And the soul is then made up of layers. So at the very core of the soul is the white light of source, which we all have the same core. But then we start to build upon the core with every lifetime. So little layers of each lifetime. So think about like a Tootsie Roll pop where there's like layers of colors, or like a Jawbreaker. I'm from Canada, so you might not know what that is, but like there's like candies where you suck down one layer and it turns colors and flavors, and then you suck down and it again, that is literally like the soul. Like it's got this beautiful divine center, and then it's got all these layers built up, very, very thin, fine layers, so you can have thousands, and they're all one layer equals one lifetime. And each lifetime has a different color, frequency, feeling, and it's pretty much like the predominant energy or vibe of that lifetime. So when something is bothering you, like a lifetime that you experienced, you could actually look at the soul or have someone that can interpret soul layers like I can and say, ooh, that's like 55 layers down, or that's 2 layers down, or that's however many layers down. Let's go in there. Let's actually literally go in there and do the healing on that layer and then come out and healing. That's healing in this realm, right? So you're right. The healing needs to be done in both. And I just wanted to comment on that. But then your other question about like, why are some people hearing their guides more or seeing their guides more? Everyone has the clairs. Okay, so the language of the clairs is how you communicate with spirit. You can clairaudiently hear them, clairvoyantly see them, clairsentiently feel them, and claircognizantly just know their message or download like a channeled message. And so then I would say that those people need to do the work on the clairs because it's not just naturally open for everyone. And even when it is, there's still more where you can go with it. You can take it further. You can fine tune it. You can refine it. You can clean it up. And that's a huge part of the work that I do with people is like working to develop their psychic gifts to the next level, to that mastery level. And every single psychic gift, reading Akashic records like what you do, light language, card readers, any psychic gift, astral travel, channeling, they all have at the foundation the same language. Every spiritual leader that people look up to are using the language of the clairs to do their work. So that is where you start, because when you build a strong foundation and you really get it, like you are flawless in your clairs to the point where you actually like integrate all four clairs into one psychic hub. That's the ticket right there. You couldn't not hear, see, feel, and know. So for the people that aren't, that's what they're missing. That's what they haven't worked on yet. That's actually the first place you should start, though.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. And what you mentioned about like viscerally feeling the past life here and all the layers, I've been recently working with the astral body instead of the astral realm and seeing some of these past lives like in the causal body, which like for me, I see it like here, all the seven layers. So I wonder if that's similar to what you're describing.
Yeah, it kind of sounds like you're talking about like auric layers in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. The aura holds are all that we are as well, but it's being projected from the soul. You know how your
Mm.
heart is the projector of like the 3D reality? Like our heart's like a projector room and it just sends out the reality that we create. So for instance, okay, say you walk into a movie theater and you're looking at the movie on the big screen and you don't like something about it. So you walk up to the screen to try to change it, but you can't change it from there because it's just a blank screen, but there's a projection happening. And you have to walk to the projector room, which is the heart, to change it there. So again, we got to change from the inside out. What you're seeing also in the causal layers or in the aura or whatever is still a projection of the core, is still a projection of everything's a projection from that high heart soul area projecting outward. So if you clean it up here, it would actually naturally clean it up in the auric layers or the light body layers as well.
Yeah, I love that. I love that so much. And like you said, expanding the clairs is like the foundation of really understanding like your soul cosmic language. And I will say, like, when I've connected with like whether it be my galactic soul family or different dimensions, ancestors, angels, dragons, they have all come to me from like different dimensions, different frequencies in order to support me in what I'm working through in that moment. So, for example, claircognizance was always like my strongest. And by learning to trust that deep knowing, I've been able to expand and use, my clairs more deeply. But during that time, I remember I had like my first guide come through, like in the Akashic Records ever. And he was actually my fiance's higher self. And that was like a beautiful, like 6 month journey of like discovering that. And he taught me how to like open my clairaudience. And that was something that like I was wanting to open. And so it's been so beautiful and it's been a beautiful journey to surrender into whoever's meant to come to support you in any moment of your life and trusting and knowing that it is divinely guided.
Yeah, because it's like, when people search for love or romance, on the search you won't find it, but as soon as you focus on yourself, it arrives. It's the same thing with guides. You don't need to search for them. You need to work on you, working on the inner child healing, past life healing. Like honestly, work on your clairs, like master the clairs, and everything will happen naturally and organically.
I love that so much. And I'm curious about like I know you said you mentioned before we started on this call, you've spoken to like or channeled information from the Galactic Federation. Is there any like information that can support Starseeds on their mission now?
Oh my goodness, yes. So the Galactic Federation of Light is very misunderstood, I feel. I think there's a lot of fear and there's a lot of paranoia out there. And I think that what would be really beneficial for people to how to navigate yourself online, because isn't the spiritual online community just so confusing, right? It's like the best way that I have found to navigate myself with this is if someone is sharing a message or even the energy behind the message, and it feels like either fear or paranoia, or if it feels like us against them, any kind of sides being created, which is duality, it's not of the light, right? And that's not to say that person is false light. I don't like that term. I don't want to, no one's evil. I don't believe that. But they're just sharing from the level they're at, but they're not fully at the level of Christ consciousness yet. So you actually want to seek out those lighthouse tower way showers of people that are actually talking about oneness and love and that like truly like loving the self and forgiveness and love and compassion for others is the answer. That kind of messaging is the truth, right? So just cleaning up your feed would be really, really beneficial because everything that you consume, you become. You don't want to become that paranoid, dualistic person either. So there's a lot of like trendy channeling that is actually coming from ego. And that's why I don't like ego channeling, because it really, really messes people up, because they start to really get addicted to it, like the drama of it, like, oh, let me tune in now. What's gonna go down this month? Like, who's after us? Who do we have to battle against? And that's 4D, right? 3D is fully unawakened, but 4D is all that conspiracy and all of that, like, anger and rage, and we got to battle against something. We've got to battle against the darkness and all of that. When you get into a 5D place, you realize, like, it's not about eradicating darkness. It's always about balance. Every planet is just craving balance. Every soul is just craving balance. So it's really about, right now, there's more darkness on Earth than light. So we're bringing in the light for balance. It's not about eradicating, it's about illuminating. It's about illuminating what's really going on and helping people to awaken and remember who they really are and bring that light in. Um, so that was just like a little thing about like navigating that very tricky online space, which I think is so important. And then the Galactic Federation of Light is this umbrella term for actually all these little councils that decided to work together. So, like, the Galactic Federation of Light is actually mini councils. So, like, a lot of people connect with the Pleiadians. So, you could say, like, the Pleiadian Council of Light, the Andromedan Council of Light. A lot of them say to me that they're called the Council for Humanity, not of Light. So, it just depends on what you receive. Like, I've spoken to the Pleiadian Council for Humanity or Council for Earth. There's an Andromedan one, there's a Lyran one, there's all of these councils. Mantis is a big one that's very involved in the Galactic Federation of Light. And then coming together as smaller councils to create a federation where each one of them has an equal say is kind of like democracy in a way, but like galactically speaking. And so there is no like technical, like, Galactic Federation of Light technically. It's just an umbrella term for all these councils decided to come together to serve Earth. And the name galactic gives away the clue too that it's just for the Milky Way. It's just for the Milky Way galaxy. And they've told me that every galaxy has its own federation where the members within that one galaxy come together to create balance. Again, it's about balance always, right? So ours we call the Galactic Federation of Light, but you could call it just the Federation of Balance. And it's many, many little councils that come together. And that's why when some people channel the GFL, they're channeling Mantis, and other people are channeling Pleiadians, and other people are channeling, like Andromedans, Arcturians, whatever it is. They're all smaller councils underneath that one umbrella. So it's very multidimensional because you've got everything in our galaxy there, right? Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. And one time that I went into the records, they like took me on this spaceship and they told me they were like the Galactic Federation. And whether it was or not, I just knew it was this like deep and strong sense of like deep knowing that I was connected to the universe and every part of it. And I was part of that unity consciousness. And I feel like accessing energies like this and using discernment, but knowing it's like when you feel that heart opening. And you feel that like knowing that you're just like part of everyone and everyone is equal, right? Everyone is good innately. It helped me, it helped support me and like finding that love for myself and trusting myself in a deeper way and knowing that I'm supported not just by like me, but like other star seeds like you or like other guides from the unseen world. And it's been really such like a beautiful, beautiful journey. And I love what you say about like using discernment on the online space because I this is definitely something I have done where if someone's like fear mongering and it doesn't feel good in my body, I know it's not a line for me anymore because it just doesn't feel good. And so my like if someone's asking like how to connect to the good, right? You always just place the intention in your heart and you'd have to know and trust that you and your guides are accessing this like that source heart energy and just knowing that is like what you are connecting with. Yeah.
I think like it's really important to create a sacred space before you do anything, like the way you did right before we started here today. I do that with my clients before any session. I do that for myself before I film any videos. I specifically ask to be anchored into divine truth and that the information that comes through is for the highest good of all involved and not coming from my own ego or programming. But unfortunately, that is not how a lot of people do things, right? And so then you do have people's programming tainting things because it's coming through that filter of their own ego in some way. And so you can have someone that you really looked up to at one point and you really like, really jive with their message. And suddenly you feel like you outgrow them. And suddenly it starts to feel like ick, like the spiritual ick, and you're rolling your eyes, you're like, what happened? And it's just that you've surpassed that frequency that that person is locked into. And the thing is, they're for someone. So that again, they're for someone. They're still serving someone. So, that's still in that 4D kind of energy, but they're not for you anymore. And so that's when we really need to clean up and like let things go. But you did mention quickly that you thought you were brought up to the Galactic Federation. They do have a mothership, like a huge ship where all of the councils go for the main meetings that are happening. And whenever I go there, it's like you walk in and there's these huge, once you get out of like where all the little spaceships in the basement, you go up and there's these huge, huge, huge tall doors. And then they open up and you walk in. It's very Star Wars vibes. You walk in and you're standing on the floor, and all around you is this amphitheater, like a horseshoe of like layers of seating that go higher, 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 like a stadium where you're looking up. It's like stadium seating all the way to the ceiling, and it's like a horseshoe. And you kind of like walk into the center, and usually someone will come down and meet me on the floor and say, you need to hear from, here's who needs to speak to you today because you're bringing a message to the Awakened Collective. So here's a mantis that wants to tell you about something that's going on with solar flares. Or the next time, here's a Pleiadian that wants to talk to you about what's going on inside the human heart right now. Or here's a Lyran that wants to talk about the throat chakra. Or here's, talking about our evolution and our crystalline, the Andromedans do a lot of like our crystalline work for us in the body. So every time I walk in, it's like, well, who's got a message for me this time? But it always looks the same. So that's just kind of a cool visual.
Wait, I love that because, okay, this is confirmation because I have a room in my Akashic records that is that place. And so, okay, yes, that's absolute confirmation. And I love what you said about like how mentors, sometimes you're aligned with their frequency and then sometimes like there's like this outgrowing say phase. And I have definitely like recognized that. But I think like what sets some people apart is like their openness to continue to grow too. And if you are like kind of on that same trajectory, I have noticed some mentors that I really align with. And I think a big key of what you said is like it's always for the highest good of the collective. It's not for me, right? It's not selfish. That's like negatively polarized, right? It's like positively polarized. It's like service for everyone. This is like for the highest good of all because we are one of all. And so, yeah, that's just like so beautiful.
It's kind of the same thing that I've noticed in relationships with romance or friendships or anything, mentors. If you have someone who's continuing to grow with you, you both rise. But if you outgrow someone, then it starts to pull you down because they're below and you still have cords attached and it starts to like pull down, right? So that's when we have to almost like cut the cords and think they may come back up. Eventually, you may see them again in your field, but for now, you're rising at a different rate, and that's allowed and that's okay. And that's when a lot of like romantic relationships end for starseeds. Starseeds grow very quickly. Like they just evolve at lightning speed. And like who you were 1 year ago, 2 years ago is like not even close to who you are here now. That's difficult on relationships. That can be hard. So they definitely move through jobs quickly, friendships, romance. Like you're moving on fairly quickly, but the alternate version of that is you hold yourself back and that just make sure that when you get into a partnership or a friendship that you are finding out asking the questions like are you interested in self-growth, because it doesn't have to be the same path as you, but it does have to be some kind of version of growth. Are you interested in becoming your highest self? Are you currently working on inner growth, outer growth? Are you ambitious? And then if they can keep up with you, it doesn't have to be the same because that makes it interesting, but at least there's this constant evolution and growth happening within the relationship.
I love that. That's such good advice, and so beautiful. And so, for anyone who's listening, is there anything that you're offering that can support like the fellow star seeds?
Absolutely. I have a brand new session that I'm doing right now called the Divine Spark session. And so inside of this, we're doing three main things. We're looking at Akashic imprints. So which lifetimes have really left an imprint on your soul? And that can be, again, it can be like galactic wars, witch wounds, but it can also be beautiful things like soul gifts, karmic romance, you know, just really any lifetime that left a deep imprint on the soul. We look at that. So Akashic imprints. Then we go to soul contract interpretation. So what lessons did you set out for yourself? Which ones are closed and ticked off? and which ones are still open and active, which means you're actually looping around them. Until you close them, life's going to send you this looping pattern of the same thing over and over, but in different people until you get it and close it. So that can be frustrating and it's important to know. And the third piece of this session is let's look at what your personal soul technology is. Like, what is your gift? What are you here to bring through? Can that be a modality? Who is it for? Let's really talk about that deeply. And so my Divine Spark session, I have a beautiful offer for everybody here that I would love to send you the link for $200 off of a session with me. It's 60 minutes, and those are the three things that we'll go deeply into.
I absolutely love that. And in terms, in case no one knows like what the Galactic Wars are, like for example, like the Lyra and Draco Wars, like how is that something that's affecting us here on Earth?
Well, because we're in one right now, so it's just a little bit more covert. Where in Orion, Draco attacked blatantly, and in Lyra, same thing. Planets were lost. It was so much trauma, and many starseeds were in those places when that happened. And that is why one of the burning missions that we feel here is that we're not going to let that continue. We're not going to let that happen to Earth. We're not going to lose Earth over that. And so the war is underground on Earth. It's, the Draco beings, the ancient beings that are, their evolution stopped at about 4D, and they're really stuck in that. And so they're stuck in what is 4D? Again, conspiracy, duality, evil versus good, dark versus light. They're stuck in this mentality and they're very egoic, always wanting more land, more planets, more power, more, influence. So our world is silently run by them. And I know that sounds crazy, but it's true. And it's just like it's in everything. It's in all the 3D stuff anyway. It's in 3D entertainment across the board. It's in 3D politics. It's in the pharmaceuticals. It's in the military. It's in the quieting of disclosure. They already have multiple alien craft and alien species underground in these incubator tubes. Like they have so much that they would never tell anybody about. And so it's they're keeping humanity in the dark. They shelved free energy. They take things and they shelve them so that they can continue to make money off of, stripping the land of its resources for, petrol and fossil fuels and all of that. So that's where the starseed comes in. We're here to illuminate that, not from a 4D level, because then you actually feed the system. Because it's really, I know that everybody listening knows what this is, so I just want to describe quickly. Your awakening phases are 3D, I have no idea what's going on, I'm on autopilot. 4D, all of a sudden I know too much and I'm really angry and I want to shout it from the rooftops, the things that are happening in the underground, the things that are happening to children, trafficking, all of these conspiracies that you realize are true, things that happen with COVID, like everything. And if you stay in that energy, your rage feeds it because the matrix system feeds on, they almost create conspiracies and reveal their own conspiracies just to create anger, just to create rage because it's fuel. And so really what needs to happen is to detach yourself and come up to that 5D frequency where you can look down on it and see it a little more like neutrally and see, okay, hold on. How does this serve the collective? How does the bad guy, in quotations, serve the light? Well, in a lot of ways, because a lot of the time people have to hit like rock bottom to have an awakening. 2020, the world's hit rock bottom. How many people awakened? It was like the biggest wave of awakening that's ever happened to this date from 2020 to about 2022, hugest wave of awakening. And that came from something bad, but then it being illuminated, right? People feeling like something was wrong, people feeling like something was off. So like we can, from a 5D perspective, look at the 4D realm and all this nonsense, and the Dracos are in the 4D as well, and see, actually, that might actually serve the collective awakening. Actually, that might actually clear karma for us in this way. Actually, like there's so many ways that you can look at it and see, okay, wait a minute, that's actually divinely orchestrated, even though it feels wrong, even though it feels bad. So how can I balance it out? Because remember, it's not about eradicating anything. How can I balance that out with my light? How can I balance that out with my own revelations online for people? How can I balance this out with the amount of love and healing I can offer to the world? So it can be like, light is very much supported by shadows a lot of the time. So it's like this moving through of your awakening phases and trying to get to this place where when you look at people and even the bad guys, you see the soul within and you see, okay, I can start to feel compassion for a soul that's trapped in a soul contract with something dark, or a soul that's that lost, that they've lost their own divinity. You can start to feel maybe not forgiveness, but maybe you can if you get deeply into it, but at least compassion for these bad guys. That's when you know you've hit that 5D frequency, when love is your neutral. And yeah, so that's just kind of like the way that the awakening moves through. And being that locked into that 4D frequency, I said earlier that the draconians have been there for eons. Well, now there's these hybridization programs to help them. Not that they like are willing participants, but there is like a hybridization program where they are actually mixing human DNA with some ancient reptilian DNA to create a bridge species. Because if we can bridge the gap between the love and the 5D and the 4D with a species that's kind of that bridge in between, we can actually like get their evolution moving again, the wheels of evolution moving again, because we don't want to leave anyone behind. Even though they've caused all this trouble, it's almost like they don't know any different. And so, you know, hurt people hurt people. So if we can help them through these programs. And another huge hybridization program is the Greys, right? The Greys were humans in another timeline and then completely evolve themselves out of their emotional centers. And so the Greys willingly actually are doing hybridization programs with humans to bring them back into having those emotions again, being able to breed again and have children again, and that's called the Essassani. The Essassani are actually this hybrid of humans and the cold Greys. And so there is going to be a reptilian in between species that's mixed with humanity, and it's a good thing. These programs are meant to like move everyone forward, move everyone forward. And something chilling that I channeled was that humanity will be the savior of the reptilians. And here they are trying to control us, and yet we'll end up being their saviors because they won't be stuck anymore.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And along that road, I heard like even our DNA, our human DNA is changing because of these like hybrid programs. And it can feel just to like ground this, it can feel very challenging if you are in the 4 or in the 5D, right? Because in the 4D, you're like, oh my God, I'm so mad and I want to support and I want to help. And you're like kind of creating and feeding that like polarization even more. And then when you go to the 5D, then you like, for me at least, I'm like, I feel like there's a sense of like guilt, even like, oh, why aren't I feeling like I need to feel more bad for this? And like, for example, so I live in Glendale, which is right by Pasadena, which is right by the Pacific Palisades, all the fires. And through that, I can see the war underneath, right? Like the light and the dark. And it's like what you said about bringing that just compassion for what's happening, in every situation. And I think it's a hard journey, but if like there's people like us to support you getting there and like really just opening your perspective to bringing and more love because it starts with you. It starts with you. It starts internally. All these things that are happening outside of us, it starts from within. And if you're able to just bring more light and more love and more compassion and forgiveness to that, then you can expand outwardly.
Absolutely. And I think that 4D is where people get stuck for years, decades. I truly know people that never evolve beyond that. And it's a very dramatic life then. It's a very ups and downs, ups and downs, ups and downs. And it doesn't have to be like that. You know, everybody should have the opportunity to experience true inner peace, which leads to like great abundance flowing into your life because you're at that vibration. And so, yeah, I think that there are now people, when I'm uncovering soul technologies, there are some of these clients of mine, it's their job to bridge the 4D to the 5D, to start pulling those people out of that, to start helping those people out of that. And but you have to be willing, and you have to be willing to put down the anger and the desire to be a warrior, spiritual warrior, and step into a lighthouse, like that lighthouse archetype of sharing love, of sharing healing, of sharing information, and not dipping back into the rage of it all. And that's hard. We've all been there. Of course, I'm sure have too, right? Did you not move
Yes,
through
absolutely.
4D? Of course I did. I got trapped in the conspiracies for a while, and your content changes, and it's all very like dualistic, and we got to battle, we got to do this, and then you kind of like take a step back one day and go, "Whoa, I'm powering up what I say I don't like. I'm feeding it by doing this." Like, whoa, okay, hold on. It's like 4D has been hijacked. on purpose to just get people stuck in it, stuck in it. It's very addictive. Oh, a new conspiracy. Oh, a new this. Oh, a new that. Who do you think's feeding that? Like, I believe that they're literally trickling that information out to keep people hooked. So the conspiracy community used to be pretty clean energetically, and now it's very much hijacked. It's very much like inserted through these 4D beings on purpose to keep people hooked to it. So I've had to just fully detach and don't even know the new ones. And that's actually better for me.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. And one thing that I did this past election, I actually felt like I shouldn't even be a part of it. And a lot of people were like judging me, like, oh, why don't you want to help support Earth? And I was like, felt so divinely called to like really doing inner work and spreading love in my own way. And that was going to somehow counterbalance, what was happening in the political system. And so it's so beautiful to hear, that is like one of the ways. And it doesn't mean like, oh my gosh, everyone now should stop, voting and, all the things. It's like you will be divinely called to specific things when you feel divinely called to it. And it's like trusting that claircognizance that I'm doing this for, and it's something bigger. And it's like, it doesn't mean I'm going to like stop forever. It was just like, I trusted that was my process. And where in the past I would like go to, political parties and we would like talk about all the things. And so
Yeah.
it's really an interesting like evolution of like where you're channeling and like bringing your energy to.
So that's you evolving through it, not bypassing it. And I think that a lot of people look at 5D characters, personifications that we're carrying as bypassers. But if they only saw how deeply we were in it at one point and how we had to grow and evolve through that, it was never about, oh, I'm just not going to look at it. It was about, there's a better way to handle this. Because I realized, like I said, we're just feeding it. We're just feeding it with our distraught emotions, with our anger, with our call for justice, with all these things. You just feed it. And there is a different way to heal it. And it's from that 5D place of Christ consciousness, unity, oneness. That's actually the answer. If we're all one, then everything's just a mirror and everything's just a part of the dance of it all. And that's a very different way to look at people in the world.
So beautiful. Oh my gosh, Jenny, thank you so much for just all these nuggets of wisdom. And where can everyone find you?
So on Instagram, find me at jennyrebecca.co, and on YouTube is the other place to find me. It's also Jenny Rebecca Psychic on YouTube.
Awesome. And is there any last words that maybe the collective needs to hear right now?
Um, Okay, so what's coming through is that there are so many people listening to this podcast that feel this huge fire, this huge nudge within, and for whatever reason, they're stuck in the frozen state, like not fight or flight, but freeze. They're stuck in the freeze. And so they just keep on this hamster wheel of their life and never changing anything. And you really are being called to break that freeze and to take a step forward. Like any action that you can take towards your own awakening and your own like reclamation of your life, taking your life back is going to be so powerful for you because one nudge like that, like me creating that YouTube channel, one little nudge can change your whole life. What are you being nudged to do? Whether it's to work with Dani or to work with myself. And I'm going to send Dani a link to share for $200 off a Divine Spark session that I spoke about earlier. Whatever that nudge is, though, you need to actually act. You need to actually, we're in a physical realm of 3D. Actions are important, especially when they're backed up by this aligned energy. You being stuck in this frozen state and on a hamster wheel is making you low-key depressed and really, really just disheartened. And you're starting to feel even hopeless a little bit about the world. It's not like that. It doesn't have to be like that. You can like feel lit up from within and alive again when you start to really discover your gifts, when you start to really do the healing, when you start to really step onto your path. You can make this place feel like heaven on earth. It just takes action.
That's so beautiful. Thank you so much, Jenny, for coming on and co-creating this beautiful space.
Thank you, Dani.